Hey, what's up, my keto challengers? It's Coach R coming to you for our daily check-in on day 3 of our 10-day keto challenge. One of our challengers this month just sent me a text message that I couldn't help but smile about. She said that she has never eaten so well on a diet before, and that just made me smile because honestly, that is what I love about the ketogenic lifestyle, that I never feel deprived and that something is always able to be made keto or to be ketofied. I love tinkering in the kitchen and trying out new recipes. So I'm glad you're feeling that way. I felt that way too. And this is definitely a lifestyle that could be sustained beyond the 10-day challenge or beyond the Go 30 challenge. So I'm glad that you felt that way too. One of our other challengers messaged me. She does some kick-ass workouts, some really hardcore workouts, and she was asking me about how she could maintain her performance through her workouts even though she is doing the ketogenic lifestyle. Okay, so we talked about when she could take her nut drinks and how she can take them afterwards from a recovery standpoint. But I did want to share that if any of you else are out there, any of your other challengers, and you are working out, you are going for a run, maybe you're a marathon runner, maybe you're a cyclist, whatever you love to do, and you are working out, there is a book called The Art and Science of Low Carb Performance. Here, I'm trying to get that. It's a really easy read, and the authors talk about how professional athletes, football players, and even Olympians, how they've transitioned into a low carb or ketogenic lifestyle and how it's actually increased their performance from a professional sports perspective. So it's kind of interesting. It talks about the science of breaking down fats for energy and not hitting the wall, the carb wall. Remember, when we were younger, we used to be taught that we needed to carb load before a large athletic performance. Well, the reason why athletes then hit the wall or bonk out, right, is because they've gone through all of their glycogen stores and their glucose stores in their body, and their body kind of goes into panic and doesn't know what else to do. Okay, so at any given time, the average carb eater has about 1,700 calories of glucose or glycogen in their body, 1,700 calories to be used, which is why every couple hours people get hangry and have to replenish their energy stores. Okay, at any given time, the average person has over 7,000 calories of fat in their body that they could utilize. Kind of interesting, right? So when you think about that from a performance perspective, then someone who is a professional athlete wouldn't hit the wall and wouldn't bonk out soon because their bodies can switch from any sort of dietary fat to stored fat and continue their performance. So some really great information. Check out this book if that interests you, The Art and Science of Low Carb Performance. I'll put that in the comments below. But to talk about our tip for today, so how does that kind of correlate with electrolytes, which is our tip for today? So let's talk about that. So electrolytes, okay, are compounds in our body that our bodies actually don't produce. We need to ingest or get our daily essential electrolytes through the food and the drinks that we eat. So some of the common electrolytes is like magnesium, potassium, calcium, and sodium. Those are kind of the 4 top electrolytes. There are other electrolytes out there that are essential to bodily metabolic processes in our bodies. For example, sodium is integral to blood pressure regulation. Okay, now sodium has also been vilified, just like fat, and has been wrongly vilified for a long period of time. There is a book called The Salt Fix that I love, and there's also an RN called Nurse Cindy. She actually has a Facebook page, so I'll put her page on there, and she does a review of the Salt Fix. Now, she's a registered nurse for over 40 years, and she's like one of those like no nonsense people, and I like love those people. And she'll just tell you like it is. And she pretty much was like, well, if you don't have enough salt in your diet, you could pretty much just, you know, fall flat dead. She's just one of those people that just kind of tells it like it is. Now, salt and sodium is integral for blood pressure regulation and also other metabolic processes. So electrolytes, sodium is one of those electrolytes. And electrolytes, when added to water, actually produce electricity in our bodies. Now think of this as electrical currents and electrical signals that our body needs to utilize and produce from a cell-to-cell communication standpoint, okay? So you've got synapses in our brain that need to fire in order to communicate to other synapses that will control our motor functions, it'll control our breathing, it'll control our heart rate and things along those lines. So having the right amount of electrolytes is integral to full systemic metabolic function, okay? And if you remember our tip from yesterday, which is drinking enough water, and as you transition from a standard American diet into a low carb or ketogenic diet, and what happens from shedding your toxins out of your bodies and pulling toxins out of our fat cells, and water actually being excreted from our bodies, with water comes electrolytes. Those go hand in hand. So as our body is transitioning from a SAD, standard American diet, SAD, to a ketogenic diet, that transition is happening, and you are going to lose trace minerals as you transition into a low carb lifestyle. So as we talked about yesterday, drinking enough water and hydrate, it's also important to supplement your electrolytes. Now, why did I bring up my one of our challengers, my pledge sister, and her workouts? Is because electrolytes are key. When you are working out or when you are exerting energy, your body needs much more electrolytes in order to function optimally. So I actually recommended that she add an extra packet of electrolytes, and I'll talk about some of our options later today, right before her workout, so that she could really optimize that. Now, a lot of people think about electrolytes and sodium as kind of a no-no. Now, sodium has been vilified wrongly, just like fats, and there is research out there and science supporting that there is actually a salt-sugar connection, believe it or not, because our bodies actually crave homeostasis. If we go into salt restriction or salt deprivation, our kidneys will actually restrict the amount of sodium that leaves our body through our bodily systems or our sweat or our urine, because our bodies need salt specifically in order to perform metabolic functions and maintain a proper heart rate. So it'll do what it can to hoard salt in, okay? And so the body actually has checks and levers to keep our sodium levels in check. So unless you have something wrong with your kidneys, okay? So if you are metabolically well, if you have no issues with your kidneys and you are functioning metabolically, then your body will actually filter out any sort of excess salt. Science has proven that if left to their own devices, animals and humans will actually consume an average amount of salt per day. About 3 to 4 grams of salt is kind of the average. Anything above that, again, will be filtered out through our kidneys with anyone with any sort of proper kidney functions. Okay. So fearing salt shouldn't be something that you're worried about. Actually, science is also showing that salt deprivation actually increases norepinephrine in our bodies. And norepinephrine is a hormone that actually increases our heart rate, not something that we want to happen, right? So if you are someone who is anxious or slightly hypertensive or have high blood pressure, and you were told to go on a low salt or low sodium diet, then chances are you could actually be aiding some of those negative repercussions that is ailing you, okay? And so a lot of that stuff is talked about in the Salt Fix. So I'll put this Amazon link for this book also in the comments below so that you guys can can read it or check it out. Or any of our challengers that are local, I'm happy to lend you the book so you guys can take a look at that and read it for yourself and, you know, do the research, because it's really interesting stuff, okay? So electrolytes, how can you add electrolytes to your diet, to your ketogenic diet for optimal success, okay? So from a potassium, magnesium, calcium perspective, you could add more spinach to some of the recipes that I suggested. So if you ate the broccoli cheddar quiche, if that was your meal, your lunch meal for today, you could throw a bunch of spinach in there and just kind of add a little bit more of the potassium and the magnesium in there. You could also add a half an avocado or a quarter of an avocado to a salad or to one of your meals to get a little bit more of that from a dietary perspective. Now, adding food also then adds to the macronutrients that you consume on a daily basis, okay? And I'll talk about target macronutrients and goal macronutrients, I believe tomorrow or the next day of the challenge, okay? So we'll get more into that a little bit later. One of the easier ways that you could do it is adding a little bit of pink Himalayan sea salt to your food, to your water, and I do that. So Redmond Sea Salt here is actually a really great brand of pink Himalayan sea salt. Now you can get any pink Himalayan sea salt you want. I believe there's even like black Himalayan sea salt if you want to go for that. But getting the sea salt actually has some added trace minerals in there, also other electrolytes in there that'll help support some of your metabolic processes as well. So the reason I like Redmond's is because it's actually one of the highest brands that have the highest naturally occurring levels of iodine in their sea salt. Now, Redmond's comes from a dried seabed in Utah. So it's mined from a dried seabed in Utah, and studies have shown that it has something crazy like 40% more iodine in Redmond sea salt than other sea salts out there. So you're like, okay, so what about iodine? Well, iodine is another one of those trace minerals and electrolytes that we do not produce internally, but are crucial to our metabolic process, in particular, our thyroid health. So the T3 hormone is the main hormone that regulates our thyroid. It is actually composed of 3 molecules of iodine. So if you are deficient in iodine, you might end up having some sort of thyroid issues later on down the road. And that's definitely not something that you want to do. So if you could have supplements, or if you can supplement your diet to support more of the iodine, if you are just naturally iodine deficient, then that'll just help you even more so, okay? So I'm happy to give more information for anybody who that kind of is interested in learning more about that stuff. But iodine, so Redmond sea salt, I literally just sprinkle, and it just takes a pinch, but I just do a pinch in my water. My kids drink my water all the time and they're like, oh, it has salt in it. It's not salty water. It's just a pinch goes a long way, and you're just replenishing those electrolytes. Pruvit actually also has their own upgraded electrolytes, and I recommend these electrolytes to anybody who is a performance athlete or anybody who is working out and doing a low carb or ketogenic lifestyle. The reason is, and this is what I recommended to one of our challengers that I mentioned earlier in this video, the reason is that these upgraded electrolytes is Pruvit's proprietary formulation of different electrolytes that your body is going to need, and it's been calculated about how much electrolytes you tend to lose, or people tend to lose on a ketogenic diet, and that's exactly what Pruvit has put it in here. And they also have their proprietary mitochondrial support, okay? Remember the mitochondria, that is where the ketones, and when you were a glucose burner, the glucose would actually go and be converted into ATP energy. So that is what is converting our fat and our ketones into energy. So having some mitochondrial support will actually increase the performance of mitochondria, will actually allow you to process your fat and your ketones faster and more efficiently, and will give you that upsurge in energy. Okay, so now you kind of see how it all fits together and why electrolytes are so crucial from not only an athletic performance perspective, but also from a cell-to-cell communication. So if you are feeling tired, if you're feeling like you're a little sluggish, or you have a headache, or you're feeling kind of flu-like, remember that keto flu, then drink more water, add more electrolytes, on a daily basis. You can have 1 to 2 of these a day, depending on what your activity levels are. And don't forget to sprinkle some pink Himalayan sea salt on your food, in your water, in your nat drinks. I do that as well. And don't be worried about excess salt that will just get filtered out and excreted from our bodies, okay? So happy to share more information. For anybody who's interested, I will add those links to those Amazon links to those books that I referenced in today's call. I'm sorry that it went a little bit over, but this is such good and important information about living a low carb lifestyle. So I hope you got some really great nuggets out of today's talk. Let me know if I can answer any more questions. Happy to do so. And I hope you guys have a fabulous rest of your day 3. I will see you tomorrow for day 4. Have a good night, everyone.